Hey Reddit, throwaway account here. I never thought I'd be in this position, writing a post about my wife, Lauren, and my so-called best friend, Ethan. But here I am, hoping that putting this out there will give me some clarity, or at least help someone else avoid my mistakes. Let me start with a little backstory. Lauren and I have been married for 8 years. We have a cozy little life together, a suburban house, 2 dogs, and plans to start a family. Ethan has been my best friend since high school. We've been through thick and thin, from awkward prom dates to wild college parties to helping each other move into our first apartments. He's Uncle Ethan to our dogs and has always been a fixture in our lives. Or at least, I thought he was. Looking back, I can see the cracks in the foundation. Lauren started acting different about 6 months ago. She became more guarded with her phone, brushing off my curiosity as me being nosy. She started going out more, claiming she needed girl time or space to recharge. I brushed it off because everyone needs their independence, right? But then Ethan started pulling away too. He stopped coming over as much, always had an excuse when I asked him to hang out, and even bailed on our annual camping trip, a tradition we've kept for over a decade. I'd be lying if I said the thought of them together hadn't crossed my mind, but I pushed it down. It seemed too absurd, too painful to entertain. After all, Lauren loved me. Ethan was like a brother to me. Why would they risk everything? And then came the innocent red flags. Lauren was suddenly always dressed up, even when she claimed to be heading to Target or meeting coworkers for drinks. Her phone was always face down on the table, and notifications were muted. Ethan, meanwhile, seemed nervous whenever we were all together. It was subtle, avoiding eye contact, too quick to laugh at nothing. Still, I didn't have proof, just a gut feeling that kept me awake at night. So here's where I'm at, Reddit. Something's off, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. I'm not the type to invade someone's privacy. At the same time, I can't keep pretending like everything is fine. I feel like I'm living in the shadow of a truth I can't quite see, and it's eating me alive. I've decided to start paying closer attention, not in a paranoid way, but enough to figure out what's really going on. I don't want to believe that the 2 people I trust most in the world would betray me like this, but I need to know for sure. What do you think? Am I overreacting? Overthinking? Or am I onto something? Stay tuned, I guess. All right, Reddit, I'm back. Things have taken a turn, and I need to unload what's been happening. Spoiler alert, it's not looking good. After my last post, I decided to pay closer attention to Lauren's behavior. Nothing crazy, just being more observant, like taking mental notes when she said she was going out and seeing if her stories checked out. It wasn't long before inconsistencies started piling up. One night, Lauren said she was meeting her coworker, Megan, for dinner. Cool, no problem. But when I casually mentioned it to Megan's husband a few days later at the gym, he looked at me like I was speaking a different language. Megan's been out of town for work all week, he said. My stomach dropped. Maybe Lauren got her story mixed up, I thought. People make mistakes. But deep down, I knew this wasn't an innocent mix-up. Then there was Ethan. He's been practically avoiding me, and when we do see each other, it's weird. I can't explain it, but it feels like he's overcompensating. Too friendly, too eager to change the subject anytime Lauren comes up. It's like he's walking on eggshells, and I can't figure out why, though I think I have a pretty good idea. The final straw came last weekend. Lauren said she had a late meeting at work. Normally, I'd take her at her word, but after the Megan thing, I couldn't help myself. I decided to swing by her office to surprise her with coffee, something I've done plenty of times before. Her car wasn't in the lot. I called her, and she picked up on the second ring. Hey babe, she said, her voice cheerful. Just wrapping up this meeting. What's up? The lie rolled off her tongue so easily, it made my skin crawl. I didn't call her out then and there. Instead, I played dumb, said I was just checking in and hung up. But the rage bubbling under the surface was hard to keep in check. That night, when she got home, I asked her how the meeting went. She went on about some bogus presentation and how stressful it was, complete with fake yawns and exaggerated details. I couldn't believe it. This woman, the one I've trusted with my life, was lying to my face without a second thought. And Ethan? He's been ghosting me. I texted him about grabbing a beer, and he left me on read. That's not like him. We've been best friends for over 15 years, and now he's dodging me like I've got the plague. It's too much to ignore. I know I'm close to something. The pieces are there, but I can't see the whole picture yet. So, I've decided to take things up a notch. I ordered a couple of security cameras to set up around the house, discreet ones. I'm also planning to dig deeper into her phone if the opportunity arises. I know some people might think that's crossing a line, but when you feel like your world is about to crumble, you'll do whatever it takes to uncover the truth. Part of me wants to confront her now, but I can't. Not yet. I need undeniable proof. If I accuse her and I'm wrong, I'll be the bad guy. But if I'm right, well, then everything I thought I knew about my life is a lie. After deciding to install the cameras, I picked strategic spots around the house. The living room, kitchen, and the driveway. Nothing in the bedrooms. I wanted to keep some boundaries and also avoid any legal gray areas. I set them up late one night when Lauren was working late again. They're tiny and discreet, so I'm confident she hasn't noticed them. The first couple of days, the footage showed nothing unusual. Just Lauren going about her day, scrolling on her phone, and talking to our dogs like they're her best friends. It almost made me second-guess myself. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe this was all in my head. But then last Thursday, something finally came up. Lauren was home in the afternoon, which was odd since she usually works until 6 p.m. I checked the footage and saw her pacing the living room, holding her phone. She kept looking out the window, like she was waiting for someone. My heart started racing. Around 4:30, a car pulled into the driveway. It was Ethan's car. I clenched my fists as I watched him casually stroll up to the door like he owned the place. Lauren opened it before he even knocked, and the way she smiled at him, it wasn't the smile she gives me. It was something else, something I can't even put into words. They talked for a bit, standing awkwardly close, before heading into the kitchen. The audio on the cameras isn't great, but I could pick up bits and pieces of their conversation. At one point, Lauren laughed and said, "It's like he doesn't even suspect anything." I didn't hear Ethan's response because my mind went blank. My body was trembling as I rewound the footage over and over, trying to make sure I hadn't misheard her. I didn't. They stayed in the house for about 2 hours. I didn't see anything explicitly damning, but the way they interacted, the whispers, the body language, was enough to make my stomach churn. I could tell something was going on, even if they weren't being overt about it. When Ethan finally left, Lauren was practically glowing. She spent the rest of the evening humming while she cooked dinner, acting like nothing was wrong. Meanwhile, I could barely eat without wanting to throw up. Here's where I'm at now. I have enough circumstantial evidence to know something's up, but it's still not the smoking gun I need. If I confront her now, she'll deny it and probably find a way to flip the script. Same with Ethan. He's slippery enough to weasel his way out of this. I can't let that happen. I've decided to take a bigger risk. I've been considering hiring a private investigator to follow Lauren. It feels extreme, but I need concrete proof. This isn't just about catching her in a lie. It's about making sure she and Ethan can't twist the narrative. I want the truth, no matter how ugly it is. I'm also starting to notice something about myself. The anger is still there, boiling under the surface, but there's something else growing too: determination. I'm not just going to sit here and let them destroy me. If they think they can betray me and walk away unscathed, they're in for a rude awakening. I found a PI named Dan, an older guy who's seen it all. When I explained my suspicions, he didn't bat an eye. "People are always more predictable than they think," he said with a reassuring smirk. His confidence gave me some hope, but it also made me realize how common this kind of betrayal must be. That stung more than I expected. Dan started tailing Lauren the next day. I didn't tell him about the cameras. I wanted his findings to be independent of my suspicions. I gave him a schedule of her usual routine, including her work, dinners, and errands, and let him do his thing. Meanwhile, I tried to act normal at home, which was harder than I thought. Every time Lauren smiled at me or asked how my day was, I felt like screaming. The first couple of days were uneventful. Dan texted updates saying she was running errands, meeting friends for coffee, nothing out of the ordinary. But on the third day, he hit gold. It was one of Lauren's late meetings. Dan followed her to a hotel about 20 minutes away from her office. She parked in the lot and went inside. not carrying anything that suggested it was work-related. 20 minutes later, Ethan showed up. He parked on the other side of the lot, clearly trying to avoid drawing attention. Dan snapped photos of both of them going into the hotel, though not together. They were smart enough to stagger their entrances. They stayed in the hotel for over 2 hours. When they finally came out, they looked, well, let's just say they weren't exactly acting platonic. Dan sent me the photos and my stomach twisted into knots. There was no way to misinterpret this. That night, I could barely look at Lauren. She came home like everything was normal, kissed me on the cheek, and asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I mumbled something about being tired and went to bed early. But I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. How long has this been going on? Did they ever care about me at all? Every memory of the three of us hanging out felt tainted, like some cruel joke I hadn't been in on. The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't even cry. I was just numb. Now I'm trying to decide what to do next. I have enough proof to confront them, but I'm not sure if I'm ready. A big part of me wants to blow up their lives the way they've blown up mine, but I know I need to be smart about this. Lauren and I have shared finances, and if I play my cards wrong, she could try to take me to the cleaners in a divorce. Ethan? Well, I'm not sure how to deal with him yet, but trust me, he won't get away unscathed. For now, I'm keeping quiet. I need to plan my next move carefully. This isn't just about revenge. It's about making sure they both regret underestimating me. I'll update you soon, Reddit. The wheels are already in motion. Hey, Reddit, I've got another update. If you've been following my story, you know I've been sitting on some heavy stuff. After the private investigator confirmed my worst fears, I've spent the past few days plotting my next move. Let me tell you, it's not easy trying to keep a poker face while your wife and your supposed best friend are carrying on like nothing's wrong. But I've managed, and now it's time to start turning the screws. First things first, I've started gathering more evidence. While Dan, the PI, gave me plenty to work with, I want to make this airtight. I've been keeping a log of Lauren's comings and goings, noting anything unusual. I've also backed up the footage from the cameras around the house and saved the text messages and photos Dan provided in a secure cloud folder. I'm making sure there's no way they can weasel out of this. But evidence alone isn't enough. If I'm going to confront them, I want to do it on my terms, in a way that leaves no room for manipulation or denial. So, I've started planting seeds, subtle ones, to make them sweat. It started with Lauren. I've been dropping little comments here and there. Nothing overt, just enough to make her wonder if I know something. Like the other day, when she came home from one of her errands, I casually said, "You know, it's funny how life is a way of exposing the truth eventually." She froze for half a second before laughing nervously and brushing it off. Moments like that give me a grim kind of satisfaction. Then there's Ethan. I haven't spoken to him directly, but I've made sure he knows I'm not oblivious. I sent him a text last night that simply said, "We need to talk soon." Something important. He didn't reply, but I know he read it. The guy's probably losing his mind, wondering what I know. In the meantime, I've been quietly setting up my exit strategy. I've started moving money into a separate account Lauren doesn't know about, just in case things get messy. I've also been speaking to a lawyer. No official action yet, just getting a feel for my options and preparing for what's to come. My lawyer advised me to keep my cards close to my chest until I'm ready to make my move, and that's exactly what I'm doing. The hardest part of all this is the waiting. Every day, I feel like I'm holding back a tidal wave of anger and hurt. There are moments when I want to scream at Lauren, throw everything in her face, and watch her squirm. But I can't. Not yet. I need to be patient. If I go off half-cocked, I could lose the upper hand, and I'm not about to let that happen. There's something else, too, something I didn't expect. Amidst all the anger and betrayal, there's a strange sense of clarity. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm fully awake. I've been so caught up in work, in maintaining this image of a perfect life, that I didn't see what was happening right under my nose. Now, I see everything, and I'm determined to take back control. My plan is simple. Let them think they're in the clear, while I quietly build my case and prepare to confront them in a way they'll never see coming. It's going to take time, but when the moment comes, it'll be worth it. First, I doubled down on gathering evidence. I found a way to pull Lauren's phone records. Turns out she's been calling Ethan nearly every day, usually when she's at work or running errands. The dates and times match up perfectly with when I know they've been sneaking around. Combine that with the hotel visits and the suspicious behavior, and it's game over for her excuses. Meanwhile, I've been playing dumb. I go to work, come home, smile, and act like the oblivious husband. But inside, I'm boiling. It takes everything in me not to snap when Lauren laughs at my jokes or leans in for a kiss. I know it's all a lie, and the thought of her betrayal makes my stomach churn. But I keep reminding myself, patience. The payoff will be worth it. This week, I decided to take things a step further. I arranged a small dinner party at our house, a casual get-together with a few mutual friends. And yes, I invited Ethan. I wanted to see how they'd behave around me when they thought they were in the clear. The night of the party was illuminating. Ethan arrived late, looking more nervous than usual. Lauren, on the other hand, was in full hostess mode, fluttering around the kitchen and laughing a little too loudly at everyone's jokes. They barely interacted in front of me, but there were little moments, fleeting glances, a shared smile when they thought no one was looking, that confirmed everything I already knew. At one point, I accidentally left my phone recording in the living room while I went to grab something from the kitchen. When I reviewed the audio later, I caught them whispering. It wasn't much, just Ethan asking Lauren if everything was okay, and her assuring him that I didn't suspect anything, but it was enough. They're comfortable enough to conspire under my roof, which means they're getting sloppy. Good. That's exactly what I need. After the party, I started phase 2 of my plan, planting rumors. I casually mentioned to one of our mutual friends, someone I know has a big mouth, that I've been feeling like Lauren has been distant lately. Probably nothing, I said, laughing it off. But you know how it is when work gets busy. I didn't accuse her of anything outright, but I knew it would get back to her eventually. I want her to start feeling the walls closing in. The biggest move I've made so far, though, is setting up the confrontation. I booked a private room at a restaurant for this weekend, under the guise of a romantic date night with Lauren. What she doesn't know is that I've also invited Ethan. I want them both in the same room when I lay everything out, the evidence, the lies, all of it. I want to see their faces when they realize they've been caught. I know some of you might think I'm being dramatic, but this isn't just about revenge. It's about taking back control of my life and making sure they face the consequences of what they've done. I trusted these people with everything, and they betrayed me in the worst way. They deserve to feel the full weight of that betrayal. Stay tuned, Reddit. The big showdown is just a few days away, and I promise it's going to be one for the books. I set everything up at this nice little Italian place downtown. It's one of Lauren's favorite spots, so she didn't suspect a thing when I told her I wanted to take her out for a special date night. I told her to dress up, and she seemed excited, giddy even. The irony wasn't lost on me. What she didn't know was that I had also texted Ethan earlier that day, saying I needed to talk to him about something important and asking him to meet me at the same restaurant at the same time. I kept it vague, just enough to make him curious. Knowing Ethan, I figured he'd show up just to see what was going on. We arrived at the restaurant, and Lauren looked stunning. It almost made me angry how beautiful she looked, like she was living her best life while stabbing me in the back. I kept my cool, though, and we sat down at our reserved table. I made small talk, asking her about her day and pretending everything was fine. About 15 minutes into dinner, Ethan walked in. He froze when he saw us, and the look on his face was priceless, like a deer caught in headlights. Lauren's smile faltered for a split second, but she quickly recovered, playing it cool. I waved Ethan over, acting like I had no idea why he seemed so uncomfortable. "Ethan, perfect timing," I said, gesturing to the empty seat at our table. "I was just telling Lauren how I wanted to catch up with you." He hesitated, glancing at Lauren, who gave him a tight-lipped smile. Reluctantly, he sat down. The tension was so thick you could have cut it with a knife, but I kept up the act, chatting like nothing was wrong. Lauren was sipping her wine a little too quickly, and Ethan wouldn't meet my eyes. Once the appetizers arrived, I decided it was time. I leaned back in my chair, looking at both of them. I started swirling my glass of wine. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately, about trust, about loyalty, about betrayal. Lauren's hand froze midair, her fork hovering over her plate. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting toward the door. I could tell they were both on edge, waiting for the hammer to drop. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a folder, the one with all the evidence I've been collecting. I dropped it on the table with a thud, watching as their faces drained of color. "You two want to explain this?" I asked, my voice cold. Lauren opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Ethan looked like he was about to bolt, but I shot him a look that stopped him in his tracks. "Sit down," I said, my voice low and firm. I opened the folder and started pulling out the photos, text messages, and phone records, laying them out one by one. With each piece of evidence, Lauren's composure cracked a little more. By the time I got to the hotel photos, she was full-on crying, her hands shaking as she tried to grab my arm. "It's not what it looks like," she stammered, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, really?" I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Because it looks like my wife and my best friend have been sneaking around behind my back for months." Ethan finally found his voice, though it didn't help his case. "Man, I didn't mean for this to happen," he said, his voice trembling. It just happened." I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "That's the best you've got? It just happened? You're unbelievable." Lauren kept begging me to let her explain, but I wasn't interested in her excuses. I stood up, grabbing the folder and stuffing everything back inside. "You two deserve each other," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "But don't think for a second that you're walking away from this unscathed." I tossed a few bills on the table to cover the check and walked out, leaving them sitting there in stunned silence. Now, I'm sitting at home, trying to process everything. Part of me feels like I finally have closure, but another part of me is furious that it came to this. They destroyed everything. And for what? A cheap fling? Next up is the fallout. I've got meetings with my lawyer lined up, and I'm ready to make sure they regret every decision that led them to this point. Stay tuned, Reddit. This is far from over. Hey Reddit, I'm back. If you've been keeping up, you know the confrontation at the restaurant was explosive. I thought the hardest part was over, but as it turns out, the fallout is just beginning. Buckle up because things are getting messy. The morning after the dinner, Lauren tried to act like everything could be fixed. She came into the bedroom with puffy eyes and a shaky voice, pleading for me to hear her out. "It was a mistake," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I wasn't thinking clearly. We can fix this. Please, don't throw everything away." I stared at her for a long moment before responding. "You already threw it away, Lauren. You and Ethan both. There's nothing left to fix." Her sobs turned into anger pretty quickly. "You've been so distant," she snapped. "Always at work, always focused on everything but me. What did you expect?" That line hit like a gut punch. I knew I'd been busy, but to blame me for her betrayal? That was low. "Don't even try to spin this," I said, my voice cold. "You had a choice. You could have talked to me, gone to counseling, anything but this." She stormed out of the room after that, slamming the door behind her. Good riddance. Meanwhile, Ethan decided to make his move. He texted me the next day. "Man, I know I messed up. Can we meet and talk this out? I don't want to lose our friendship over this." Friendship? Was he serious? I didn't respond. I didn't trust myself not to say something that would make things worse. Instead, I forwarded the message to my lawyer. I'm done giving Ethan the benefit of the doubt. He's going to feel every consequence of what he's done. Speaking of my lawyer, we've officially started the divorce process. My lawyer's a shark, exactly the kind of person I need right now. We've frozen the joint accounts so Lauren can't pull any stunts, and we're working on a strategy to ensure I walk away with everything I deserve. She cheated, and that's going to be a big factor in how this plays out. I've also started spreading the word in a controlled way. A couple of close friends now know what happened, and their reactions have been interesting. Most of them are on my side, but there's a handful who seem uncomfortable, like they don't want to pick a side. It's fine. I don't need everyone's support. I just need the truth out there. As for Ethan, his life is already unraveling. Word travels fast in our friend group, and people are starting to distance themselves from him. I heard through the grapevine that his wife, Emily, found out about everything. Apparently, she packed up her things and left him the same night she heard the news. Karma works fast sometimes. Lauren's been trying to play nice for now, probably on the advice of her own lawyer. But I know it's just an act. I've caught her throwing daggers at me with her eyes when she thinks I'm not looking. She's not used to me standing up for myself like this, and I think it's throwing her off. I won't lie, Reddit. This whole thing is exhausting. The anger, the sadness, the constant back and forth in my head about what I could have done differently, it's a lot. But there's also a strange sense of clarity. For the first time in years, I'm prioritizing myself. I'm not bending over backward to make someone else happy. It's liberating in a way. The next step is the legal battle, and I'm ready for it. I've got the evidence, the support, and the determination to see this through. They thought they could betray me and walk away unscathed, but they've underestimated me for the last time. After I officially filed for divorce, Lauren's mask started slipping. The tears and apologies turned into cold, calculated resentment. She's not even trying to hide her anger anymore. Every conversation is dripping with venom, and she's been taking subtle jabs at me whenever we have to talk about practical matters like finances or the house. It's fine. I've been letting her dig her own grave. What caught me off guard, though, was Ethan. He finally worked up the nerve to call me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Here's how the conversation went. Ethan, look, man, I know you're mad, and you have every right to be, but can we just talk this out? I hate how things ended at the restaurant. Me. Ended? Things aren't ended, Ethan. They're just getting started. Ethan, sighing. I messed up, all right? I am sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Me. Oh, you didn't mean to? You didn't mean to sleep with my wife for months? You didn't mean to betray me in the worst way possible? Help me out here, Ethan. What exactly did you mean to do? He stammered for a while, trying to spin some excuse about how he and Lauren were in a bad place and how it just happened. Hearing his pathetic attempts to justify himself was almost funny. Almost. I cut him off and told him he could save his apologies for someone who cared. Then I hung up. Later that day, I got a message from his wife, Emily. She thanked me for letting her know the truth and told me she's moving forward with her own divorce. She's hurt and angry, but she also said she's grateful to be free of him. If nothing else, at least something good came out of all this. The friend group fallout. Here's where things get tricky. The friend group. Word is spread, and now it feels like everyone is taking sides. Some people, mainly the ones who've been closer to Ethan and Lauren, are trying to stay neutral. They keep saying things like, it's complicated, or there are two sides to every story. Hearing that makes my blood boil. There aren't two sides to this. They betrayed me. In a story. The friends who have stuck by me, though, are like gold. They've been checking in, making sure I'm okay, and even offering to help however they can. One of them suggested we all take a guy's trip to get my mind off everything. I might take them up on that once the dust settles. But the real kicker? Lauren's been trying to spin the narrative. She's telling mutual friends that I was emotionally unavailable and distant, like that somehow excuses her actions. It's laughable. I've heard through the grapevine that she's even trying to paint herself as the victim. The mental gymnastics are Olympic level at this point. My next move, now that the divorce is in motion, my lawyer is working on securing a favorable settlement for me. Thanks to the evidence I've gathered, I have the upper hand. Lauren's infidelity is going to weigh heavily in my favor, especially when it comes to dividing assets. She doesn't know this yet, but I've already secured temporary control of the house and frozen all joint accounts. She's scrambling, and I'd be lying if I said it doesn't feel a little satisfying. I've also started therapy. I wasn't sure about it at first, but it's been surprisingly helpful. Talking to someone who isn't involved, who can help me process everything objectively, has been a game changer. I'm learning to let go of the guilt and self-blame. Their actions are a reflection of them, not me. What's next? I've been spending more time on myself, hitting the gym, picking up old hobbies, and reconnecting with friends who genuinely care. It feels good to reclaim pieces of myself that I'd lost along the way. As for Lauren and Ethan, I don't know where they stand, and honestly, I don't care. They can have each other. They've burned every bridge with me, and I'm not looking back. All I care about now is making sure I come out of this stronger and smarter. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride, Reddit. I'll update you again once the legal battle heats up. Trust me, the best is yet to come. The courtroom drama begins. My lawyer has been a rock through all of this. We've submitted everything: the texts, the photos, the phone records, and even the private investigator's report. Lauren's infidelity is front and center in our case. And it's not just a smoking gun. It's a flamethrower. I thought she'd roll over and try to settle quietly, but nope. She's coming out swinging, which means it's game on. Her lawyer is trying to paint me as controlling and emotionally neglectful, saying that her actions were a response to feeling trapped in the marriage. It's laughable, but also infuriating. She's essentially saying her betrayal was my fault. My lawyer shut that down fast, pointing out that she had plenty of other options if she was unhappy. Cheating wasn't one of them. In the meantime, the financial side of things is heating up. Lauren's trying to claim she's entitled to half of everything, including my retirement account and some of the investments I built before we even got married. Her argument? She supported me emotionally while I was building my career. My lawyer is countering that with evidence of her duplicity, and we're confident the court will side with me. Ethan's fallout. Here's where things get interesting. Word around town is that Ethan's life is crumbling. His wife, Emily, isn't just divorcing him. She's taking him to the cleaners. Turns out, she had her own lawyer digging into their finances and found out Ethan had been spending a suspicious amount of money on hotel rooms and gifts. She's using that as leverage to make sure he walks away with as little as possible. To make matters worse, for him at least, he's been blacklisted from a couple of social circles we used to run in. People don't want to associate with him anymore, and he's apparently been drowning his sorrows at the bar. I'd feel bad if he wasn't the architect of his own destruction. He and Lauren gambled with my life and their own, and now the house of cards is collapsing. The next curveball. Just when I thought things couldn't get more chaotic, Lauren dropped a bombshell. She's claiming that she wants to make amends and is pushing for mediation instead of dragging things through court. At first, I thought it was a joke. After everything she's done, lying, cheating, and trying to spin the story, now she wants to play nice? My lawyer thinks it's a tactic to save face and possibly negotiate a better deal for herself. I agreed to one mediation session, mostly out of curiosity. If she thinks she can manipulate me into giving her more than she deserves, she's in for a rude awakening. My lawyer will be there, and I'm not budging on any of the key points. She gets nothing more than what the law requires, and the evidence of her infidelity stays on the record. Moving forward, despite all the drama, I'm starting to feel lighter. Every step I take toward finalizing this divorce feels like reclaiming a piece of myself. I've been throwing myself into the gym, focusing on work, and spending time with friends who've stood by me. Therapy has been a lifesaver, too. It's helping me untangle the emotional wreckage and figure out what I want my life to look like moving forward. I'm not going to lie. There are still bad days. Sometimes the anger and sadness creep in when I least expect it. But then I remind myself that this isn't the end of my story. It's just a chapter, a messy, painful one, but a chapter nonetheless. Lauren and Ethan can live with the choices they made. I'm done carrying their baggage. From here on out, I'm focused on building a life that's stronger and better than the one they tried to destroy. Stay tuned, Reddit. The mediation session is coming up, and I have a feeling it's going to be a train wreck. I'll let you know how it goes. We met at a neutral office downtown with a mediator, a no-nonsense woman named Diane, leading the session. Lauren walked and dressed to impress, probably hoping to sway things in her favor by looking polished and composed. I didn't bother with theatrics. I was there to get things done, not to play games. She gave me a weak smile when she sat down, like we were old friends catching up over coffee. I didn't return it. Instead, I just nodded and focused on my lawyer, who had already warned me not to engage in any emotional theatrics. Diane started by outlining the rules. No interruptions, no accusations, just an open discussion about how to move forward amicably. It was almost laughable. Lauren and amicable don't belong in the same sentence, but I kept my mouth shut and let her have the floor. Lauren opened by saying she wanted to keep things civil and protect what we've built together. She talked about how hard the past few months had been for her and how she hoped we could move past the mistakes and focus on what's fair. She painted herself as the victim, glossing over the fact that she was the one who cheated and betrayed me. Her proposal? She wanted the house, half of my retirement savings, and alimony for 2 years to help her get back on her feet. Oh, and she also suggested we keep the details of the divorce private to avoid damaging our reputations. I almost laughed out loud. My lawyer, bless her, stayed calm and professional, but I could tell she was biting her tongue. When it was my turn to respond, I kept it short and sweet. I don't think that's realistic considering the circumstances. At this point, my lawyer stepped in. She calmly laid out the facts. Lauren's infidelity, the evidence we had, and how it would play out in court if this went to trial. She reminded everyone that the evidence clearly showed Lauren's misconduct, which would significantly impact the division of assets and potentially nullify any claim she had to alimony. Lauren's face turned red, and she immediately went on the defensive. This isn't about the affair, she snapped. This is about what's fair. Fair, I finally said, unable to stay silent any longer. You think it's fair to cheat on me, lie to my face for months, and then ask me to fund your fresh start with Ethan? That's rich, Lauren. Diane stepped in to calm things down, but the damage was done. Lauren looked furious and embarrassed, and for the first time, I felt like I was firmly in control. The highlight of the session came when Lauren tried to justify her actions by bringing up Ethan. She said, Ethan and I made mistakes, but he's not the reason our marriage fell apart. My lawyer jumped on that, pointing out that Ethan's involvement was directly tied to the dissolution of the marriage and could potentially lead to a lawsuit for alienation of affection. Side note, we're not pursuing that route, but it was satisfying to see her squirm at the mention of it. By the end of the session, it was clear Lauren wasn't going to get what she wanted. The mediator suggested we take a break and reconvene at a later date, but my lawyer and I both agreed that there was no point. This is going to court, and I'm ready for it. The session confirmed what I already knew. Lauren isn't sorry. She's just sorry she got caught. If she thinks she can manipulate her way into getting a better deal, she's in for a rude awakening. I'm done playing nice. From here on out, it's about protecting what's mine and making sure she and Ethan face the full consequences of their actions. I'll keep you posted on the next steps. Court dates are being set, and the fight is far from over. But one thing's for sure, I'm not backing down. Stay tuned, Reddit. The gloves are officially off. Hey Reddit, back with another update. Things have taken an unexpected turn, and let me just say, karma has a way of working things out when you least expect it. The court date is still a few weeks away, but some new developments have made the wait a little sweeter. Here's what's been happening. Ethan's downfall. So, remember Ethan? The guy who thought he could stab me in the back and walk away unscathed? Turns out his life is imploding faster than I expected. A mutual friend, one of the few who stayed firmly on my side, told me Ethan recently got fired. Apparently, his boss caught wind of the affair, likely through the gossip mill, and decided he wasn't a good fit for the company anymore. I can't say I'm surprised. Ethan always had this smug arrogance about him, like he thought he was untouchable. Well, he touched the wrong life this time, and now he's paying for it. Word is he's been staying with his parents, which is a far cry from the cushy life he probably envisioned with Lauren. Lauren, meanwhile, has been making things worse for herself. She's still living in the house, for now, but her behavior is getting sloppier by the day. A few nights ago, I came home to find her on the phone with someone, probably Ethan, whispering furiously in the kitchen. She didn't notice me walk in, and I caught part of the conversation. He's not going to win. I'll make sure of it. I didn't confront her. I don't need to. Every move she makes is just adding to the mountain of evidence I already have. But it's clear she's getting desperate, and desperate people make mistakes. My lawyer is ready to pounce on anything she does that could jeopardize her position in court. Here's the twist I didn't see coming. Emily, Ethan's soon-to-be ex-wife, reached out to me. She sent me a message saying she wanted to meet and compare notes. At first, I was hesitant. What could we possibly gain from rehashing the pain these two caused us? But curiosity got the better of me, and we agreed to meet for coffee. Emily was surprisingly composed. She told me about her own experiences with Ethan's lies and manipulation, and we ended up swapping stories about how blind we'd both been to the red flags. She also mentioned that Ethan had tried to contact her, begging for a second chance. Her response? I told him to get lost. I like her style. What really caught my attention, though, was when Emily mentioned some financial shady dealings Ethan had been involved in, stuff that might intersect with Lauren's sudden interest in draining our joint accounts. She offered to share the documentation with my lawyer, which could be a game-changer in court. It's weird finding an ally in someone who's also been burned, but I'll take all the help I can get. Despite all the drama, I'm starting to feel like myself again. Therapy has been a huge help in sorting through the emotional wreckage. I've stopped blaming myself for Lauren's choices and started focusing on what I want my future to look like. I've also been reconnecting with hobbies I'd abandoned, like hiking and photography. It's amazing how much lighter I feel when I'm not carrying the weight of someone else's lies. The best part? I've started looking at new places to live. The house is filled with memories I don't want anymore, and I'm ready for a fresh start. Once the court process is over, I'm selling it and moving on literally and figuratively. The court date is getting closer, and I feel more prepared than ever. Lauren and Ethan thought they could break me, but all they've done is make me stronger. Every lie, every betrayal, every underhanded move they've tried has only solidified my resolve. I don't know what the final outcome will be, but I do know this. No matter what, I'm walking away from this with my dignity intact and a clear conscience. Lauren and Ethan, on the other hand, will have to live with the mess they created. Walking into that courtroom was surreal. Lauren was there with her lawyer, trying to keep up appearances, but I could tell she was nervous. Ethan didn't show up. Not that I expected him to, but his absence only made Lauren look more isolated. My lawyer was calm and confident, which helped steady my nerves. The proceedings began with the usual formalities, but things heated up fast when my lawyer presented the evidence. The judge's reaction to the photos, text messages, and phone records was exactly what I hoped for, a mix of disapproval and disbelief. Lauren's lawyer tried to argue that the affair wasn't relevant to the division of assets, but my lawyer countered by highlighting how her actions directly impacted the marriage and financial trust. Then came the piece de resistance, the financial documents Emily provided. They revealed that Ethan had been funneling money into a private account Lauren had access to. It was clear they'd been planning to start a life together, using funds they siphoned from both of their marriages. My lawyer laid it all out, and the judge didn't look impressed. When it was Lauren's turn to speak, she tried to play the victim. She said she felt neglected in the marriage and that she made a mistake by turning to Ethan for comfort. But the evidence was overwhelming, and the judge didn't buy her excuses. He ruled that her infidelity and financial misconduct would factor heavily into the settlement. Here's where it gets good. The judge ruled in my favor on almost every point. Lauren is walking away with none of the alimony she requested, and the division of assets is heavily skewed in my favor. The house will be sold, and I'll receive the majority of the proceeds. The joint accounts? Frozen, with the funds split based on contributions, which means Lauren gets next to nothing. On top of that, the judge issued a stern warning about her role in the financial scheming with Ethan. While no criminal charges are being pursued, yet, the ruling made it clear that her actions were unethical and will be on record if she tries anything in the future. After court, Lauren tried one last time to talk to me. She waited for me outside, tears streaming down her face. "Can we just talk?" she asked, her voice trembling. I stopped, looked her in the eye, and said, "We've done all the talking we need to. Goodbye, Lauren." It felt like closing a chapter, a long, painful one, but also like the beginning of something new. I walked away without looking back, and for the first time in months, I felt free. As for Ethan, word is he's still struggling to put his life back together. Emily has filed for her own divorce and is pursuing additional damages for his financial deceit. He's burned every bridge he had, and from what I hear, he's been couch surfing at a buddy's place. Karma doesn't miss. Now that the legal battle is over, I'm focusing on myself. I put in an offer on a new place, a small but cozy condo in the city, and I've been reconnecting with old friends and hobbies. Therapy has been a lifesaver, helping me process everything and rebuild my confidence. I've also started dating again, cautiously but optimistically. I'm not looking for anything serious right now, but it's nice to feel like I have the freedom to explore life without the shadow of betrayal hanging over me. If there's one thing this experience has taught me, it's the importance of self-respect. I spent so much time doubting myself and trying to make things work with someone who didn't value me. Now I know better. I've learned to trust my instincts, stand up for myself, and never settle for less than I deserve. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, it's going to hurt, and it's going to feel like your world is falling apart. But you'll get through it. You're stronger than you think. And on the other side of the pain, there's a version of you that's wiser, tougher, and ready to take on whatever comes next. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride, Reddit. This will probably be my last update, as I'm ready to close this chapter for good. Here's to new beginnings. For the first time in a long time, I feel at peace. The house officially sold last week, and I've moved into my new condo. It's smaller, quieter, and most importantly, completely mine. No lingering ghosts, no reminders of the betrayal. Just a clean slate. I've spent the past few days unpacking and decorating, and it's been strangely therapeutic. Every picture I hang or piece of furniture I place feels like a step toward reclaiming my life. I had one last interaction with Lauren when we finalized the sale. She tried to make small talk, asking if I was happy with the settlement and if I'd forgiven her yet. I told her the truth. I don't hate you, Lauren, but I'll never forgive you. Not because I'm angry, but because I respect myself too much to let you back into my life in any capacity. She didn't respond, just nodded with this hollow look in her eyes. I think she finally realized there's no coming back from what she did. Here's the part one didn't see coming. Today, I was at the park with my dogs, enjoying the rare sunny day. I was sitting on a bench when I noticed someone familiar walking toward me, Emily. She looked different, lighter, like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. We made eye contact, and she smiled, so I waved her over. We ended up talking for over an hour. She told me she finalized her divorce from Ethan and has been focusing on her own fresh start. Like me, she's found solace in therapy and leaning on the support of good friends. She also mentioned she's looking to move to the city, not far from where I live now. It felt good to connect with someone who truly understands what I've been through. There was no awkwardness, no pity, just an easy, genuine conversation. When she left, she gave me her number and said, "If you ever want to grab coffee or just talk, let me know." I think I will. The last few months have been the hardest of my life, but standing here now, I realize how far I've come. There was a time when I couldn't imagine life without Lauren and Ethan in it. Now, I can't imagine wanting them there. The hurt is still there, but it's dulled, replaced by something stronger. Hope. I've learned that healing isn't about erasing the pain. It's about growing around it. The scars will always be there, but they're a reminder of what I've survived and how much stronger I've become. I'm taking things one day at a time, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about the future. Whether it's finding new hobbies, spending time with friends, or even seeing where things go with Emily, I'm ready to embrace whatever comes next. Thank you, Reddit, for being with me through this journey. Your support, advice, and even the tough love have meant more than I can say. If you're reading this and going through something similar, remember, it gets better. You'll get through it, and you'll come out stronger on the other side. Here's to new beginnings. After running into Emily at the park, we ended up grabbing coffee a few days later. What started as a casual conversation turned into a deeper connection. We found ourselves talking about everything, our pasts, our goals, our struggles, and it felt easy. No pretense, no games, just two people who understood each other in a way that most wouldn't. Over the past few weeks, we've spent more time together. Hiking, cooking dinner, and even going to a comedy show that left us both in tears from laughing. It's refreshing to be with someone who gets it, who doesn't need explanations or apologies for the mess life has been. I'm not rushing into anything, we're both still healing, but there's something real here, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm allowed to hope. I haven't heard much about Ethan since he lost his job, and Emily finalized her divorce. From what I've gathered through mutual friends, he's still couch surfing and blaming everyone but himself for his downfall. Lauren, on the other hand, has been reaching out to friends and family, trying to rebuild her reputation. Good for her, I guess. I don't wish her ill, but I also don't wish her back into my life in any way, shape, or form. The closure I got from the court case and the house sale has been enough for me. They made their choices, and now they're living with the consequences. I'm not wasting another second of my energy on them. Moving into my new condo has been like stepping into a different life. It's smaller, yes, but it feels bigger in all the ways that matter. Every piece of furniture, every photo on the wall, it's all mine. I've started filling my days with things that bring me joy. Photography walks around the city, late-night book binges, and even taking a cooking class. Pro tip: don't underestimate the power of homemade pasta. The dogs have adjusted to city life surprisingly well. Watching them chase each other around the park has become one of my favorite parts of the day. It's a reminder that even after all the chaos, there's still so much good to be found in the little moments. Looking back, I realize this entire ordeal has taught me more about myself than I ever could have imagined. I've learned the importance of boundaries, of listening to my gut, and of never settling for less than I deserve. I've also learned that healing isn't linear. Some days are better than others, but that's okay. Progress is still progress. For anyone out there dealing with betrayal or heartbreak, here's my advice. Take your time. Lean on the people who love you. Don't rush to fix everything at once. You'll get there, and when you do, you'll be amazed at how strong you've become. As for what's next, I don't know, and that's the beauty of it. Whether it's exploring a potential relationship with Emily, diving deeper into my passions, or just enjoying the peace I've fought so hard to find, I'm ready for whatever comes my way. Thank you, Reddit, for being my sounding board, my support system, and my reality check. This community has been a lifeline through the darkest moments, and I'll always be grateful for that. Here's to moving forward, embracing the unknown, and finding joy in the journey. Cheers! Clinking glasses. A few days ago, I was at the grocery store picking up some snacks for a movie night with Emily. We've been taking things slow, but whatever we're building feels real. While I was standing in the produce aisle debating between apples and pears, I heard a voice I hadn't expected to hear again. Hey! I turned, and there she was, Lauren. She looked different. Not bad, just tired. Like the weight of the past few months had finally caught up with her. For a moment, I froze, unsure how to react. But then I nodded and said, "Hey," as calmly as I could manage. She smiled faintly. "You look good." "Thanks," I replied, not offering the same compliment back. Not out of spite. I just didn't feel the need to say more than I meant. There was a brief, awkward silence before she spoke again. I just wanted to say, "I'm sorry for everything. I know I can't undo what I did, but I hope you know I regret it." I didn't respond right away. Part of me wanted to lash out, to remind her of everything she'd put me through. But another part of me, a part one didn't realize had grown so much, just felt indifferent. "I appreciate you saying that," I finally said. "I've moved on, Lauren. I hope you can, too." She nodded, her eyes glistening like she wanted to say more, but I didn't stick around to hear it. I excused myself and walked away, leaving her standing there in the produce aisle. As I checked out, I felt a strange sense of closure wash over me. The anger, the hurt, it wasn't gone, but it didn't control me anymore. It was just part of the story, not the whole of it. That moment with Lauren felt like the last page of a book I've been trying to close for months. Walking out of that store, I realized how far I've come. The person I was when this all started feels like a stranger now, someone I respect, but someone I've outgrown. Emily and I had our movie night, complete with terrible horror films and way too much popcorn. As we sat on the couch laughing about how cheesy the special effects were, I caught myself smiling, really smiling, for what felt like the first time in ages. It wasn't forced or fleeting. It was real. If there's one takeaway from this entire experience, it's this. Life doesn't always go as planned, but that doesn't mean it's ruined. Sometimes, the chaos clears the way for something better. I've learned to trust myself, to value my worth, and to embrace the unpredictability of life. For anyone reading this who feels like they're drowning in betrayal or heartbreak, I hope my story gives you some hope. You're stronger than you know, and you'll come out the other side. It won't be easy, and it won't be quick, but it will happen. Keep going. You've got this. This really is at this time, Reddit. I'm closing this chapter and looking forward to the next. Thank you for being here through it all. The ups, the downs, and the downright ridiculous. Your support, advice, and sometimes tough love have been a lifeline. Here's to moving forward, to finding joy in the little things, and to whatever comes next. Take care, everyone.